Well, thanks for joining us, folks. My name's Noah. I work at Arctic Wolf on our cyber security intelligence team. Spend all day looking at the market, looking at threats, and looking at products. And of course, we have to talk about the elephant in the room and all rooms, AI. Have you heard about AI in cybersecurity yet? Probably, right? Quick show of hands. Raise your hand if you think AI is going to take your cybersecurity job. No, good. No, good. And raise your hand if you would like it to take parts of your job so you can take a little bit of a vacation. Okay, very good, very good. Well, fortunately or unfortunately, here to tell you that probably neither of those things will be happening in the immediate term, no matter what vendors want to tell you about AI. So we're going to talk about why human expertise is still needed in the age of AI threats. And a lot of this information comes from over 1,200 concern is not ransomware anymore, and their biggest concern is not cybersecurity for data privacy anymore. Their biggest concern is AI, how it works, your rogue users that are using AI and not telling you, or are putting data that they shouldn't be putting in there, and it goes out into the world and we never see it again. Right? So AI is the concern. You're going to hear about it. You're going to hear about agentic AI, large language models, all these things. We'll demystify some of that. We'll tell you about what's going on in cybersecurity for AI today, some of the strengths and the gaps, why humans still matter. That's good news for all of us, eh? Some human and machine synergy, how we can work together with the machines. We can have a nice little ending rather than Terminator. Skills that we need in this AI era, and the future of defense with AI. So, at the risk of sounding very pessimistic, we know that the current state of AI, and we know that AI is a very overused term. We knew this way back when Apple was trying to call Siri AI. Siri is not AI, it's a voice assistant, right? And it's still not even AI today. So we know that it's overused both in regular technology, but also in cybersecurity a lot. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And it's not magic that makes AI work. It's human brain power and human companionship that makes AI do a very good job. So let's look at this. Part of our survey, part of the research that we've done, 72% of organizations are telling us that they're now using some form of AI in our cybersecurity stack. That's interesting. How do you all feel? Are you using AI in some kind of way in your cybersecurity stack yet? Yes, no, maybe so. Cool. We know that AI is embedded from everything to our SIMs or SIEMs, depending on how you want to say it, our EDRs, their phishing files and email and fraud detection system. It's in coffee makers, it's in fridges. We know that it's everywhere, and 72% of our folks are telling us they're actively using it. And their vendors out into the world, I don't know if you go to a lot of conferences. I just went to RSA last month in California. Every single booth had something to say about AI because it is now the silver bullet that's going to solve all of our problems, allegedly. But the capabilities of vendors really do vary widely. And despite automation, many tools still need the human supervision and tuning and partnership and interpretation to be able to function. So this is, our curve or our peak of expectations. So we know that AI is the topic of every discussion, but where are we really, right? So it's marketed as fully autonomous. I used to work at Silence and then BlackBerry, and Silence had that very first AI-based EDR, endpoint protection tool. And we've now, as Arctic Wolf, acquired Silence from BlackBerry. That's why I'm here. That's why I get to wear the nice polo. And since then, a lot of folks and vendors have added on a lot of stuff. So this over-reliance on AI, and if I'm telling you that from Silence, over-reliance on AI can introduce blind spots, especially in edge cases, where we need the human to tell us, is this real, is what's going on here? And all of our analyst firms that we have to hear from constantly, whether we like to or not, Gartner, Forrester, MITRE, they all are warning us of overhyped claims in vendor marketing. So the security community is learning that AI is very powerful, but it's not magical. So I love this right here, right? This is what we want. We want to be able to say we have an AI-powered autonomous SOC. That sounds really cool, right? AI is fighting the bad guys for us so we can focus on and carry on with our day. Where we're really going to get to is when we find out we have a little bit of disillusionment. It can't actually do all that. It's sending us a lot of false positives. It's really burning our time, burning out our analysts. That's in this little area of disillusionment right here. And eventually we'll get to this plateau of productivity where it's doing some things for us. It's not doing everything we want. Just like a good negotiation, we walk away a little bit unhappy, but still, have done something. And we start to glide into these context-aware models. I'm telling you right now, we're not here yet. Even we're not here yet. I don't know, it depends who watches this back, but I will tell you, we are not here yet. We are not here yet. We are still living in this kind of area where we're trying to be as hands-off as possible and letting the AI do a lot of work. But what we're letting the AI do a lot of work on and what we should be doing is things that it does well. So AI is really good at processing massive amounts of data. We don't want to look at all the telemetry from all of our endpoints. Your standard user in your organization, how many endpoints do they have? I don't want to look at all that telemetry. I don't want to look at every router. I don't want to look at every switch. Let AI do a little bit of that work, right? So, and with that, because it's seeing so much data, it is good at detecting known patterns and anomalies using those heuristics, right? Some clustering. And it automates repetitive tasks and doing some of that alert triage. We really, really like that. It can help us with some rapid response if we're using maybe some AI automated SOAR. Uh-oh, lots of acronyms there, right? If we're doing a little bit of automated response with our playbooks, it can help with autonomy. And 24/7 monitoring at scale as well, very helpful. We want it to look at some of that data, but we don't want to be awake all day and all night long having to sift through those massive amounts of data. But again, where were humans still required? Well, we can misinterpret ambiguous behavior. AI, right, has a problem with that, misinterpreting things that aren't super clear. AI lacks contextual awareness. It cannot prioritize risk without understanding business impact. That's where, when I talk about false positives, that's what I mean at all. Everything's a threat, right? If everything's a threat, then your job's very in demand. That's a good thing now. And we're vulnerable to adversarial manipulation. We're seeing threat actors now try to game the system when it comes to AI, both on the practical side of like trying to get past our endpoint defense, but also phishing emails are so much better than they used to be. Right? You used to be able to recognize a phishing email pretty quick by how poorly it was written. Now they're getting pretty well no matter what language we operate in. So what we really have to move to is AI as a force multiplier, not a replacement. So we want to automate the obvious and augment the analyst, right? So every tier 1 analyst gets a promotion with AI. That's a good thing, right? That's a really good thing because now they can focus on not necessarily chasing all those false alarms and false alerts. They can focus on investigating something that we think has a pretty high likelihood of being bad, or look at some of the telemetry from other tools and observe that. We excel at pattern recognition at scale. So if we have maybe globally distributed offices and we're seeing something in one part of the world and we're watching that come over, we're looking at that. And we can help AI, learn from human context, intent, and exceptions. Tuning, right? We want to tune our AI based on what we know. So it can also help with, the malware classification, looking at some of the behavioral-based anomaly detection, phishing pattern detection, all that good stuff. So really what we want to do is tune it with the human brain. It's limited. Right? It fails at those edge cases like I was talking about. It doesn't necessarily take context. So we need to give it that context. It doesn't have intent awareness. It lacks ethical judgment. Sometimes humans do too. But AI in particular, by default, lacks ethical judgment. Bias and training gap. So the saying garbage in, garbage out. Right? If you're not giving it super high quality data, it is not going to give you a super high quality response back in return. We've seen that with even as simple as ChatGPT. If we give ChatGPT a really crappy prompt, it gives us back a crappy answer. Same deal with these. It is vulnerable to manipulation. We talked about that, right? If we can disguise what the AI knows or recreate something new, maybe we are able to, go around it. And it's got opaque decision making. If it's not immediately yes, no, it doesn't operate very well in that gray area. But we know if we think about MITRE and we think about mapping behaviors, we are moving away from cybersecurity, moving away from signatures, signature files, using signatures as a way to determine that something is bad. Every EDR, every NGAV, even the most basic bare bones antivirus is able to recognize a signature, right? So we want to be able to move away from relying on that, and we want to look at behaviors, because we know threat actors are going to use behaviors to detect our threats, but we need to make sure our AI is really well tuned in doing that. So this is where the humans come in, right? We can weigh nuance, not just thresholds of things. We can make value-based decisions based on what the business wants. Lateral thinking, this is a big one, right? Our threat actors will move laterally against us. They'll find some really, really obscure way to get in, and then they'll move into the next system, and the next system, and the next system. We've seen that with different threats, right? We can see, for example, prompt bombing on somebody's multi-factor authentication, and we see them, trick a very senior engineer into getting access to their credentials. They got in through some credential they found on the dark web. They prompt bombed that engineer. That engineer had access to all kinds of different things. Threat actor is able to move laterally. If we're only looking at one thing with AI, we can't tune that. If you know what I'm talking about in that example, I'm not allowed to name names or we'll get sued, but that's an example of what happens, right? A threat actor comes in, moves laterally. Very large company in 2023 that you may or may not get cars from, or rides from, had that happen to them in that very exact way, the lateral movement. I don't know anything about that though. Curiosity, right? We can follow patterns that don't fit by choice if we want to. That's a good thing. Helps with that lateral movement. Adaptability, learning and pivoting in real time. We've seen that, right? A threat actor, if they're watching us as they're moving through our system, they're watching our actions. They can tune, so we should be able to tune. Again, with that example from that very large car service rideshare company, the threat actor saw them create a Slack channel talking about how we're going to get rid of the threat actor, moved into the Slack channel and said, hey, I can see you, and mocked them, right? So that adaptability, being able to pivot in real time and having the tools to do that. And empathy, right? So understanding motives and behavior shifts. That's really, really important. So humans still matter more than ever. Even the more AI we put in, the more humans matter, which is a really good thing. It has to be humans who know how to use that AI. So this hybrid model is really important to us, right? The AI and the analyst. So AI, like I said, massive data processing it can handle, pattern detection, repetitive workflows, the stuff that you hate doing every single day, especially coming back from a long weekend and you have all those analysts. I went to a public sector organization once and I sat with the security head there, and he had said, when I come in, I have so many alerts at the beginning of the day that if I've been gone for more than one day, or if it's been a weekend or a long weekend, I come into work, I take the alerts that are in there, I click select all, and I click delete. That's a little scary. A little scary, but right, because there's no way he's going to read those alerts anyway. It's like your email when you come back from vacation. It has exploded. You don't have time for that. And we're seeing that right now, and that's a big problem because threat actors are hiding in there and they're waiting for us to make a mistake or become overwhelmed. So the speed and scalability in which we can process those alerts is so important. The human analyst now adds a really important layer to this AI, right? The contextual interpretation, the investigating unknown or novel threats. Behavioral detection is good with detecting unknown novel threats, especially the more it sees, the smarter it gets, right? That's how clustering works and heuristics work. The more I see, the smarter I get, the more data I process. Our SOC is processing 7 trillion security events a week, and that is all going right into the brain of our AI, which is great. But you need a lot of data and you need some of that human context. And then the intuition, the creativity, the ethical judgment, making sure that we're doing things in the right way. So together, they form a resilient defense. So AI amplifies speed, human amplifies insight, analyst gives meanings to patterns or dismisses those false positives, and hybrid models reduce fatigue. What's really important, improve our accuracy and shorten our response time. So this is the perfect hybrid model. So how do we train our people to be a great part of that hybrid model? Well, the future will belong to hybrid teams and hybrid thinkers. We cannot avoid the use of AI. When I worked I'll tell you all, I worked at BlackBerry previously. When ChatGPT and all these things came out, they said, okay, total block on all of it right now, because we don't know enough about all of the mechanics of it, which does make sense, but you have to learn about it over time and make adaptive policies based on your business case. You can't just stick your head in the sand and be like, oh, we can't use this because it's a threat. That's not going to work. So we don't want to train people to compete with AI. That's the other thing. We're seeing folks get very defensive when it comes to AI, not in a good way. Defensive in the sense of, oh, it's going to take my job. And we've seen some large cybersecurity companies, I won't name names, reduce their workforce because they have what they think is a very effective AI that can, replace humans. We're not there yet. So like I told you before, AI uplevels human analysts by automating that tier 1 stuff, all the stuff we hate doing. The human judgment, creativity, and communication are irreplaceable, right? Being able to work with your team, create a little war room, deal with a threat. Soft skills and strategic thinking will define the next-gen analysts. And security maturity is defined by those who ask why, not just what. Because what just tells us the immediate threat. Why helps us identify that lateral movement. So again, the AI-enhanced defender will have some of these attributes. The hypothesis-driven thinking, behavioral pattern recognition that will help them. The AI will help them with it. Strategic risk assessment, not just blocking everything because we feel like it or the AI tells us to. Creative problem solving and adversarial modeling. How are our enemies thinking? And that will be informed by both humans and AI. Here's an example. Right? Some success through synergy. So we have a threat. AI's contribution is that there's flagging an anomaly in a login pattern. It was escalated based on geolocation rules. So this user is perhaps accessing information from a place that is different than they normally do. They tagged the alert with medium severity. I don't know how classifications are done at your organization, but medium severity is nothing to sneeze at. We actually have to do something about it. So the human analyst contribution is identifying lateral movement, right? We're seeing that they've logged into something that maybe they're not supposed to, or they use a login to get somewhere else. We've cross-referenced that with recent HR exit activity, okay? And we've elevated it to a critical threat based on intent and timing. What does the recent HR exit activity tell us? Maybe it's a disgruntled employee. We better get on this fast because maybe they have some kind of axe to grind and they want to get some information and release some information. So the human said, oh, we better move this up because the AI wasn't tuned against that exit data yet. So things like that. We can't just, AI will catch up, but so will our data. We're going to keep processing more and more data. So we want to have both. So AI found something unusual, and the analyst found out what it means. So the real world impact is that AI flagged a pattern, but lacked the context to escalate accordingly, risking further threat development. Analysts correlated the timing, role, and behavior to determine threat activity and intercept before privilege escalation, so before they were able to do bad things. And at the end of the day, post-incident, detection logic was actually updated because the analyst input feedback into the existing ML models. That's the tuning I'm talking about. They have to work together. So in the future, this will move easier. But in the future, there's also going to be a new malware. There's going to be a new type of threat. There's going to be a new behavior. There's going to be a new threat actor with an axe to grind. Right? So we're being able to compete with that by training very fast and very intelligently. But we've got some risks. Right? This might be contradictory to the story that I just told you. Risks of overdependence, false confidence. I see this a lot. The belief that AI always gets it correct. This is most exemplified, like I told you, with companies removing humans in favor of AI. You are that confident in your AI. I'm not. Reduced human oversight. Right? We cannot let Terminator think for us or else Skynet, will fire all the nukes. You know that movie. Right? Ethical and accountability gaps. AI could make decisions that we don't want it to make. And it could, reflect things in a way that we don't want. So there's no clarity on who's responsible for AI-driven actions. Right? We have to have policy around that. We have to have rules around that. And there's an inability to explain why decisions are made. AI is just going to take the action. Maybe in some kind of log it'll tell you why it did that, but not with a lot of context, right? So we have accountability, especially if you're in a regulated organization or regulated sector. You have to explain why you take certain actions or why you do certain things with data. Skill degradation, this one I'm worried about. I'm worried about it for students, for my nieces. They're 10 and 12, and they're writing, not very good. I love them to death, but right, they're getting used to these AI tools and these various things. So we want our analysts to have the skills that they need. Right, teams lose expertise as they rely more on automation and less critical thinking during incident response. That's really important, because if the threat actor has targeted your AI system or has shut down part of your AI system or done whatever, and you really have to think on your own, you're going to have less critical thinking skills, perhaps, if you've built this dependency over time on AI. So we want to think about our ethical and strategic considerations as well. Right? We want to ensure fairness and bias mitigation in AI-driven decisions. We want to avoid the black box models in sensitive roles. We need to know how the AI works and how it makes decisions. Right? That's something that we're really, really thinking about. We have to know if we're going to bring it into the organization, just like when you bring in a new vendor and you want to see their software bill of materials, you want to see maybe their SOC 2 report, we need to see how the AI thinks, be told about it, learn about the algorithm. Totally important. We need to keep a human in the loop. This is a term you're going to hear a lot more of if you're not already. Human in the loop AI, or human in the loop agentic AI, where a human is supervising that AI agent. And when I think about AI versus agentic AI, just as a little aside, AI is the kind of automated detections that are out there living and finding bad things based on patterns. Agentic AI is going one step further and taking actions, like an agent. Right? That's how I classify it in my brain, because there's so much crap to think about all the time. So hopefully that helps your brain as well. We need to define ownership for errors made by the automated tools. And we need strategy. We need an AI policy with defined business use cases. We need to consider AI's life cycle in retraining, something called drift when we adapt AI. Drift is when it moves away from the baseline that you set. Drift is bad in a short thing, right? Drift means we haven't updated over time, so we need to align with drift as well. And we want to assess AI's impact on compliance if that's important for the regulation and vertical that we live in. So some questions to ask ourselves as we're responsibly deploying AI. Can we explain the output? Do we have a documented override and appeal process? Is someone clearly accountable for each AI system? Have we evaluated for bias, drift, and misuse? And does this align with our overall values? So how do we integrate it into our existing security program? So we need to evaluate our current maturity and look at gaps that AI can actually help us with. Maybe they're getting burned out. So that's an area where AI can help. We have so many, tier 1 analysts, and our senior analysts are overwhelmed with requests. AI can maybe help a little bit. And so you don't have to bug that senior analyst every time you see a probably false alert. If somebody puts in a USB stick, block it, right? So these kinds of things. We need to define our use cases with narrow, well-scoped AI use, and avoid high-risk areas early on. Let's not give it all our financial data just yet. Let's not give it all our customer data just yet. Give it a minute. Make sure it's just like when you bring on a new employee. They're not getting all the keys to the castle on day one. I hope not. Pilot and monitor, so we want to run AI in parallel with human analysts and measure those outcomes, review those edge cases, look out for continuous monitoring so we can continue to upskill staff. Right? So make AI part of the team and not a replacement. Integrate where it supports, make sure there's human understanding, build a feedback loop, and align AI integration with existing incident response. Don't replace it. Human in the loop. So I will give us a quick note on acceptable use and the importance of acting now before it is too late. This is the BlackBerry example. Anybody ever carry a BlackBerry? Side note, total side note. Yeah, okay. I miss it every day. That's all. The blocking by default. This is what we did at BlackBerry on day one of ChatGPT, because we didn't yet have a legitimate use case. So if that sounds like you, if there's no legitimate business case that exists, then block it for now because we're adding risk into our environment. We're increasing our attack surface. We want to protect against data leakage, compliance, violation, all these kinds of things. But once we start thinking and doing that testing that I was talking about, doing that kind of ethical building that I was talking about, that's where we can think about policy-driven access. Identify specific authorized use cases for some of these large language models. Draft a policy, include safeguards. Do not wait for AI risks to write your policy. Write it now before it writes itself. Literally, that's a little bit of a joke, I guess. But the idea of don't wait for somebody to put in your financial data into ChatGPT free version before you write an AI policy blocking it. You laugh, but we see some crazy stuff, right? So we can always revisit these policies as we go on and that kind of thing as well. Great. So some key takeaways, if you remembered nothing else, because you were just wrapped up in the BlackBerry nostalgia. Machine intelligence has significant logical limitations. It is not going to replace us human beings yet. AI is technology, and technology has vulnerabilities, just like humans, but also like regular technology. Just like how Microsoft has a vulnerability on, they have to do the patch Tuesday, AI has to do it too. Human oversight remains a key component of AI success. Prepare to hear human in the loop for the rest of your natural life. No, for quite a period of time, human in the loop, the co-pilot, the agentic AI. And we know that AI can amplify analyst skills, but over-reliance poses very, very serious risks. So we're going to keep that in mind as we continue. So I want to thank you for giving your time to chat about this, and happy to take any questions that we have. I know some were already pre-sent in as well. Any immediate questions off the top? Yep.
Quick one. Should we anonymize the names and addresses and of people, of companies, when we ask something?
Yeah, so if we're asking anything related to like company data, 100% anonymized, especially if it's going publicly. What we're also seeing people do is create local versions of these large language models that are isolated from the internet, and that way that data stays in-house, and that's really important too, right? So we can have kind of a free sandbox to ask questions and upload data. Me being me, I'm very, still very cautious about even that, but it is the safest way we have right now to have some safeguards on communicating.
From your information you're going to put
well, and if your system is hacked, then that data will be taken as well, even if it's local. So things still give me a lot of concern, but we want that human in the loop. Any other questions I can answer for folks? There was one that was sent in on the app. It was asking how Arctic Wolf uses AI in our SOC today. We do have a tool called Cypher AI. If you see this dog here, the wolf, his name is Cypher. So we've created the AI, named it Cypher AI. CrowdStrike has Charlotte, everybody's got to give it a name. So our Cypher AI is actively in our SOC right now, helping up-level data and alerts to our analysts. So in the use case I just gave you, our SOC, our S2 team, which is our security services team, our SOC that we provide for our customers, they have had competitions on who can write the best prompt to Cypher and get the best data. They're giving away gift cards. It's a whole fun little thing. But right now we're using it in the use case of helping to upskill our tier 1 analysts and give us more insight and data and get rid of all those really tedious tasks that we hate doing. So that's what we're doing today, those use cases. And of course on the silence side, we are continuing to use behavioral-based AI detection to stop some of the threats that we're seeing for EDR, EPP. So that's how we're using it today, with a lot of safeguards, a lot of rules, and a lot of restrictions, just so you know. So great, thank you all so much.